Okay, we're going to start with NUS Conference. So thank you, welcome to everybody to the question time event for NUS Conference and also Chair of Council. We will begin with NUS Conference. The first candidate going alphabetically is Ophelia Charles. We have not received anything from Ophelia, so people will just have to see what is available on the website for Ophelia when she submits a manifesto. So the next candidate in alphabetical order is Rochelle Cohen, who is unable to be here tonight because she's on placement, and so she has submitted a statement which I will read out on her behalf. I was going to say, I am a member of staff, please don't bash me. Right, remember this is being televised as well and that can't be cut out. So if we could keep it serious and then every candidate gets a fair chance. Speech on behalf of Rochelle Cohen, who is unable to be here because of her placement. Hi guys, my name is Rochelle and I am running for NUS Delegate. I apologise for not being here tonight. It was my intention to come. However, due to placement commitments, I cannot make it. However, if you would like to ask me any question on my manifesto or anything else, I will be on Facebook and Twitter around 8 PM this evening, so I will answer any questions you may have, so make sure you ask me anything you want to know. Throughout my 2.5 years at this university, I have always been actively involved when possible in anything to do with making lives better for people and for students. From being heavily involved in many societies at university, from FemSoc, Labour and human rights societies, which I have been actively campaigning on, one of which won an award for. I am an elected representative on Student Council for this year and have recently passed a motion through the Council for the representation and support of carer students. It is in my nature to help others, and that is why I would like to be elected and feel I deserve a place for NUS Conference. NUS Conference is about passing national policy that represents the interests of students collectively. Therefore, you need somebody who is going to fight for the issues that matter and not pass policy based on their own interests. I do not have a motion in my manifesto, but I pledge to support policies and engage thoroughly in debate which represents the interests of the students, especially students who are underrepresented across the country. Now it is more important than ever to have our voices heard as students both young and mature, with policies affecting us, and MPs who do not care about who they oppress along the way. I want to ensure that policy is passed to ensure MPs are accountable for what they do and the promises they make us. The NUS New Deal campaign and Right to Recall reflect this passion within NUS for the rights of students, which I would like to be a part of, as well as the campaign to abolish tuition fees. Education is a right, not a privilege. Okay, that's the end of the 2 minutes. Okay, so that's a statement on behalf of Rochelle. In alphabetical order, the next candidate is Tom Daly, so could Tom Daly come to the stage and make his statement?
Can they hear me? Yeah, cool. Right, my name's Tom. I'm running for NUS Delegate. I work in the sports office here downstairs, doing the student sport part. I've worked with sports clubs before back in Birmingham, in the East Coast of America, West Coast of America, and in Canada, and I've seen how different clubs are worked. And it's always good to see from using your own experience and how you can help other clubs when you're in the job role that I am currently in. So when I speak to other sports teams and societies to see what proud of the issues they have, I feel that I can help them, and if I'm voted in, then hopefully I can put more things across and better ideas across. So drawing on my past experiences, I plan on using that and making a difference. So yeah, please vote for me. Yep.
Okay, we now have the opportunity for 3 questions to be asked of Tom. So do we have a first question? Jade.
You've mentioned in your presentation a lot about your sports, but what can you do for the everyday student who's not included in sports?
There's a massive drop off in sport in higher education, and a lot of clubs struggle to get students in. So be putting on activities. So for sports that are like not that popular, not mainstream. So for instance, ultimate frisbee, you could use that as a social to get more people just getting more active throughout the uni and getting involved, making sure sports clubs are getting involved with other people and with other things around the uni, and just putting themselves out there and getting more people involved and making the university as a whole a more tighter group, if that makes sense.
Cool. Okay, Lee was the next person to indicate.
What's your representational values of students if you was to be elected at NUS conference? What do you pledge to represent? How do you pledge to represent?
How do I pledge to represent? Just in a sense that my issue with how it is at the moment is that there's no togetherness. There's not a lot of togetherness. It could be better. So just more opportunities for students to get involved in things. No, the opportunities are there, but making sure that there's actively pushing people to get involved in everything. So rather than people put in, like say yourself for instance, starting a campaign and then it's just there, but people are told about it but no one's pushed into it. That's what we'd like to see, and get more, but doing away through sports and society to getting involved. Everybody else sees that happening, they get more involved. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, Josie.
Hello.
Hi.
As a volunteer in sport, do you feel that NUS provides enough support for sport for students?
I think more could be done, if that makes sense. More can be done. I'm not saying that they don't do it. I just think there's opportunity and potential for more to be done.
Okay, I'll take one more question if we've got one online, but you're not indicating. Okay, I'd like to say thank you to Tom for his speech and his questions. Okay, the next candidate in alphabetical order would be Dan Dewhurst. Dan is unable to be here, so I'm reading a statement on his behalf. Quite simply, this NUS has failed to respond to the needs of students, failed to address concerns all students can relate to, and failed to make any significant difference to the policy-making agenda in Westminster for the benefit of all students. If you want real change at NUS, vote for someone who has not only the ability to say what needs to be said, but also for the person who has the character to say it. Voting in your same old left-wing, feminist, Tory-bashing, educational elitist way isn't going to get NUS back on track. It's only going to make things worse. Vote for me, Dan Dewhurst, and I'll head the revolution in NUS next year, speaking out against the institution's lack of ideal policy and advocating for a reassertion of efforts towards tuition fees, maintenance loans and DSA. Viva la revolution. Okay, so that's a statement on behalf of Dan Dewhurst. The next candidate on alphabetical order will be Lucy Haig. So Lucy, can you come to the platform?
Hi, I'm Lucy, and I would love you to vote me number 1 for NUS Delegate. In my role as campaigns officer, I've spoken to so many students, and I'm aware of the many problems students face at the moment. We have finance, which affects the majority of our students, and individual problems affecting specific students, such as housing, visas, and value for money on their course. I feel I've done a great job representing students so far this year, and would love to do the same at NUS conference when it comes to national policy. Fair representation and making sure I'm voting on what's in the student interest is a key importance of mine. That's why if I'm voted, I will speak to as many students as I can on the motions that come through. And I'll do this by hall crawls and pop-up stalls around campus. That's why if I'm voted in, I will speak to as many students because my opinion doesn't matter. I can only fully represent if I know how students actually feel on the motions. If you feel I have your interest at heart, then please vote me number 1. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Lucy. 3 questions for Lucy.
Oh, God. Sorry.
Jade.
How do you plan to represent every student? I know you speak to students. Do you actually plan to put that into action?
Okay, so I'm not saying that I know how students are feeling. I am not every single student. I do not fall into every single demographic. But I think it's great to speak to a whole range of students, whether that through societies or going round halls and speaking to as many students as I can, mature students, and really getting a feel for how students feel on particular motions. Especially since we get them prior to the conference, I think there's no excuse for not speaking to students about particular things.
Okay, Lee?
I don't want to that.
Building on what Jade said there, as a representative body already representing students, and linking it with Jade's, how are you going to get that through, what everything that you just said there? How are you going to get that through the conference? How are you going to communicate that back to students? And get students involved, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think what I'd like to do is influence students to put in motions on particular subjects. And if I feel that I have enough evidence, I'd love to speak to around about approximately 100 students on each kind of motion that goes through, depending on how many there is. That would give me quite a good approach to how students feel on a specific thing. I would love to then, bring things forward to and speak on motions if I feel it's applicable and relevant, but really take into consideration how it would affect students back on our campus and across the nation in regards to how I vote on it, because it's not my opinion, so I've got to think about our students currently here today.
Okay, one last question. Matt?
What do you think about the gender balancing motion?
It doesn't matter what I think about it because I am not a student anymore, therefore I would ask students what they think about it and do my research that way. Thank you, Matthew!
Okay, thank you, Lucy. The next candidate would normally be Marie Hall, but I don't think Marie is here, and we haven't had a statement issued on her behalf. So we will move on to Sana Iqbal, who is also not here but has given us a statement to read. Okay, the statement on behalf of Sana is, why choose me? I am running for council chair in NUS because I have the knowledge and experience from being a current council member to understand what is required of these roles. My vision for council is to empower the members to discuss and debate issues and to not just pass policies, but to make change happen. I am currently involved in the Students' Union in many projects, such as the Race Equality Charter Mark, Palestine Awareness Week, and the campaign for quiet rooms around campus. All this and more gives me insight into how to, quite frankly, get the job done. I want to help facilitate this development in council and help change student voice into student action. Anyone who has met me can testify that I am passionate about making student voices heard. I am hard-working, extremely driven, and I believe with me as council chair and NUS delegate, we can move forward. Vote Sana Iqbal number 1 for council chair and NUS delegate. Okay, the next candidate is Josie Linsell. Can Josie come to the stage, please?
Hello, my name is Josie Linsell. As always, I don't have a speech. I don't do speeches, it's not really my style. So as a volunteer for 4 years now in sport, I've not really come into contact whatsoever with NUS, apart from the fact that there have been elected officers that I've heard of. And then even now, having been to NUS training and different conferences, I still feel disengaged. I feel disempowered. I feel a bit rubbish, to be honest. I don't think it's great. So what I want to do is, we have these great campaigns going on that NUS wants to shout about at national level. but it's at national level. How does that feed down to local? So the national Union of Students need to be more local and relevant to its students in its different areas. So that's about it, to be honest. I'm done. Thanks very much.
Okay, questions for Josie, seeing as we've made her walk back to the stage.
You say you're disappointed within NUS and that they're not feeding back. How do you plan to change this, and how do you plan to engage with NUS to make this happen?
Thanks, Lee. What I plan to do is obviously speak to students. I kind of disagree a little bit with Lucy in that, yes, we should be speaking to students, yes, we should be speaking on behalf of our students, but voting is actually a subjective thing. It does matter what our opinions are, and therefore I'll be out speaking to students and I'll be applying their opinions, our students' opinions, to my voting, but also it will be my opinion that will be informing that. So the only way that I can do that is obviously to take our opinions, to stand up and speak and say and vote and do whatever you think is right, to bring it back as much as we can.
Okay, Matt?
If you have a subjective view, what's your view on the gender balancing motion?
I do have a view on gender balancing. Everyone seems to jump on the same bandwagon. Gender balancing's bad. Well, yeah, kind of, I think. But if you look further ahead, is it kind of a necessary evil? If you are going to force more women into power, that's going to trickle down and that's going to continue. More women can then empower other women. So, do I agree with it in principle? Not really. But then, will it possibly benefit the future? Maybe.
Oh, okay, and time for one more question. Jade?
So you say you're going to use your views as well as students to make that vote, but when it comes down to the wire, it'll be your opinion that counts. So how is that representing me as a student body?
That's not what I said. I said there would be a mixture of students, our students' views and my opinion. You're elected based on your opinion. You put out what you believe, people vote for you whether they agree with you or not. So that's why voting is subjective. It is a subjective thing because it's what you believe that you vote for. So what I believe will be swayed by our students, obviously our students' opinions and priorities. But at the end of the day, if it comes to something that I haven't managed to get enough research for, or we don't know enough about at this university in particular, there's nothing I can do other than what I think. But you are voted on what you think, so that's kind of what I meant. Does that answer your question? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Josie. Start of an interesting debate about representative democracy. The next candidate is Rachel Marlowe, but Rachel is not here and has also not submitted any statement to be read out on her behalf. So therefore I'm going to ask Matt Murphy to come and do his speech.
Oh, I got swag. Yeah. This is the right motion, isn't it? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. All right, we'll get that out of the way. So I'm Matt Murphy. I'm running for NUS Delegate. When it comes to an election of any kind, be it local, national, council, or student level, somehow there's always the affiliation with the phrase, no one really cares. Whether this is because politics bores people, or because they don't feel their vote counts, or because they're genuinely uninterested, I'm not sure. When it comes to the issues of students, I'll forever be someone that does want to represent, make voices heard, make votes count. I'm one of those ones who does really care. I was elected to go to the NUS conference last year. I took the stage to speak, and as some of you may know, I made a fool of myself in doing so. You could look at it in that way, but know that I'm the only person confident enough from UCLan to speak on behalf of us as a union, and have been for a very long time. Even Gareth said he couldn't remember the last time that happened, which is saying something. Nothing. Sorry. The point I'm making is that I stood up to make our opinion heard. And if I'm elected again, I plan to speak on behalf of students about those concerned issues, take our student opinion to the conference, and if needed, take the stage to defend it again. Don't vote for me because you know my face as an SAC member, or because I'm the coolest ginger you'll probably ever lay eyes on, Ed Sheeran not included. Vote for me because I'll be doing what I do best, being the one who cares. Vote Matt Murphy for number 1 NUS Delegate. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not so old I can't see people in the audience with their hands up. I'll come to Lee first.
So you state you're going to be the only person to stand up and represent students and voice their opinion?
No, I said that I was the only person that did at that conference.
That wasn't your question.
My question is, how do you then turn that as one thing that you've just said into a whole with a team that you'll be with?
What do you mean? Can you explain further if that's all right?
Okay, so yeah, there's no I in team. You've just said you'll happily stand up and we're elected as a team to represent. So how would you put that then towards a team and represent the students' views?
Good question. I think one thing we didn't do last year properly is we met as a team, but really didn't go any further with it. We weren't alerted as NUS Delegate members by the president last year, or the team in general, when the motions were brought out. We weren't told whatsoever or notified. We had a couple of meetings which turned into a debate about something specific, but we didn't really. And this year, if we have a strategy together and know what we're going to go forward with and know what we're going to go out there and speak to students about and take that forward, then I think I'll be a lot clearer on what we're going to speak about. But yes, I will speak with that team and make sure I know what I'm talking about. And on the right motion.
Okay, which timely, before we ask the next question, I'll remind everybody that the deadline for submitting motions to NUS conference this year is the 6th of March. So you have been duly noted and warned. Okay, Emily was the next person with a hand up.
Seeming as you like to ask everyone else, what is your view on gender balancing, Matt?
Why, thank you, Emily. My particular view towards that, and I agree somewhat with Josie in what she said, but I also have the opinion that if you're going to say that people aren't fairly represented, do it for everyone. Do it for BME, do it for LGBT, do it for liberation groups that need liberating, not just women. And I don't say that because women don't need liberating, they do. But I mean, if you say, for example, 1% of that crowd are going to be from a particular country, why not let 1% of your delegates or whatever have to be represented in that way, if you know what I mean? And don't just say half of the people there should be women. I can understand completely where that comes from, and when people say if it'll work, I was told that conference, it works in the Wales one, it should work here. I don't understand what work means. Great, when we'll have women there and we'll have people represented properly, but at the same time, do that for every liberation group. This is where you clap.
Oh, okay, Jade?
You answered a question by Lee before,
yes,
by saying that things need to be more engaged before you actually get to conference. Who is going to enable that happens?
I think all 8 delegates that are going, including the president, need to go out there and organise as a team and go out there and speak to students, go around campus and goal, speak to students, and not just speak to them and ask their opinion, inform them as well. Because the one thing is you go up to students and go, what do you think of this? People just go and give their opinion. But if you give them the background to it, and they would actually place them as if they're there at the conference as well, would have a very different opinion on it. So inform them properly on what's happening and on the motions that are put forward.
Okay, do we have any online questions? No, I'm taking that as a no, so thank you, Matt. Okay, the next candidate is Debbie O'Connor, who has given a statement to be read as she is attending a lecture at the moment. Hi everybody, thanks for attending the big election debate here at the atrium. Apologies for not being able to attend in person, but unfortunately I have a lecture. I guess you want to know a little more about me and why I want to run and be voted in as NUS Conference Delegate. I am a first-year international business student and also a course rep. More recently, getting involved in volunteering and helping out with the SU whenever I can. I am involved with UCLan Marrow, which is just being set up, and I am Vice President. Besides being a student, I also have 2 other hats, a wife and mother, and both my husband and daughter are here at UCLan studying. I have a vested interest in wanting and being able to make a difference for all students. Even if this is the slightest of changes, it is a step in the right direction at both local and national level. I believe education should be free, and being in HE should be no different for students. I hear people say, students have more money to go out partying, what work do they do? Unfortunately, they do not see the hours of study we actually put in each week. The difficulties we face and overcome for us to all maintain and achieve our goal, not to mention many of us juggle study, part-time jobs to help us through our university years. I'm very passionate about helping and making a difference, and being able to get the best for everyone. EU, international students need to have fees that are fair, and we need to welcome them into our university community. I promise to hold surgeries of which I would give you feedback on a regular basis of how I have voted and why. Please give me the chance to be your voice here at UCLan and represent you at both local and national level. If you have any questions, please contact me at doconnor@uclan.ac.uk. That's the statement on behalf of Debbie O'Connor. I now ask Emily Peake to come to the stage.
Hi, I'm Emily Peake and I'm running for NUS Delegate. I'm a second-year psychology student and I'm the current women's rep on the Student Council. As someone who has previously represented a students' union at NUS conference, I understand exactly what's expected of me. If elected as NUS Delegate, I will be asking students for feedback on the motions as they come in and see if anyone has a particular stance that wants represented. I shall then be representing the majority vote, regardless of my own opinions. However, I will always be taking the pro-choice stance on any motion. I would also like to attend NUS conference to represent a motion that I would like to put in. I've not done a poll or a survey, but I've seen the countless social media vocalisations that represent the issues that are faced by students regarding Student Finance England. At the start of the semester, which is the second most stressful time for a student, Student Finance England creates paperwork issues that could be avoided if the company worked effectively. This is not just limited to UCLan, and so is therefore not our issue, it is a national issue. It's on this basis that I'm submitting a motion to ask NUS to investigate Student Finance England and to help improve the service. If I'm not elected as NUS Delegate, I will be approaching one of the elected delegates to represent in my place. My name is Emily Peake and I'm standing for NUS Delegate. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Josie was first to indicate.
Hello.
Hi.
You mentioned that you'd be voting on based on our students' majority vote, but you will be voting pro-choice regardless of whatever the students want. So what if our students decide that they are not pro-choice?
My vote will be a pro-choice vote. If, for example, abortion rights, if our students decide that we want people to campaign heavily on no to abortion, I will vote in favour of the fact that it's someone's choice whether or not we do that. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay, Lee.
Following on from what that is then, what Joseph just said, if you're going out and asking students for their viewpoint, and then if the collective and the majority turn around and say they're against whatever motion it is just there, and you vote pro-choice for that specific motion, how are you then representing the views of them students as a collective and your own view at the same time?
I won't be, no, but at the end of the day, regardless of the fact that we've been elected by the majority of students, that's still my personal choice. And as I've announced it here, and I will be when I will talk to students, and they will understand that fully, that if the majority is against the pro-choice, that is just how I represent, and I will stick by that.
Okay, Matt.
No, I'm not going to ask the question you think I'm going to
sorry.
ask. No. I was going to ask about your Student Finance England part, and what specifically do you want to put forward a motion to? Because I don't think you kind of clarified what exactly you want from it.
No, I mean, as the deadline is the 6th of March, it's not fully written, and I'm not very good with words either. it needs to be investigated as to the running of it. Some of the issues that I've seen arisen can be avoided very easily by simply working better in the system. For example, paperwork getting lost, things being asked several times in a row. That doesn't need to happen, and that's stopping students from getting their finance on time. These issues need to be looked at on a national level rather than a local level, and therefore need to come from NUS. So I'll be asking NUS to put in the research for it and to investigate the fact that they are not working effectively for students.
Okay, thank you. Any online questions? No. Okay, thank you, Emily. The next candidate was to be Joe Schumacher, but Joe's not here and has not submitted a statement either. So I'll ask Stephen Seymour to come to the podium.
Thanks. Personal cheering section. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Stevie Seymour and I'm your Education Officer for the year and I'm running for NUS Delegate. What would I want from my delegate? A voice, a mind, the ability to weigh up a situation and vote for what's right? Would gender affect my decision to vote for a candidate? Okay, so most of this is something that we all look for in our candidates. Gender, not at all. I don't feel that gender affects the way in which a person represents a group of people, but some people do. Having worked with students for so long, and I've just lost my place, I would want someone who I could trust to vote in the best interest of the students they represent. So I'm running because I know I can, and I've done this and more on numerous occasions. Let's make the students of UCLan voices heard. Let us have our say on the national issues affecting students, fees, retention, attainment, a government that doesn't listen, the economy and the job market, the list goes on. Also looking at how we encourage people to get more involved and better ways to do gender balancing that is reflective of the fact that out of the 16 delegates, 10 are actually female. Fighting the patriarchal ideology in those that vote so that we elect those who will just get the job done. Delegates will also be voting on who they want to run NUS, and that's important as they're the ones that set the objectives for NUS and support unions in the year to come. Above all, let us be part of a movement that not only aids and benefits its local environment, but the environment that we are all part of, the National Union of Students. If you like my speech, vote Stevie Seymour. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Stevie. Any questions? Jade?
Hi, Jade. Hi.
One of the other candidates' speech was very anti-NUS, and yours seems to be very pro-NUS. Can you explain why you're very pro-NUS?
I wouldn't necessarily say my speech was pro-NUS. I think what I was clarifying is that, as no other candidate has yet to mention, is that we vote who we want to run the National Union of Students at conference. So I think that, in my personal opinion, does NUS get everything right? No, it doesn't. Do we get everything right? No, we don't. And I think that to improve any system and any movement, we need to evaluate, have a look at what's going on and build upon that. I wouldn't say that we should be incredibly negative about people that work quite hard. And as I've said, they don't always get it right, so let's help them to improve. One down.
Okay, Lee?
One down, 2 to go.
As a representative, if you was to get chosen, for example, how would you plan to make them changes, bring them back down to a local level for your students' union? How would you give that message back to students?
It's a really important thing, isn't it, that we talk about how we work locally and how we work nationally, and what people tend to forget is that actually when we work locally, we work with other unions, we work and we build together a partnership, and actually when we talk about the things we change here, we change nationally. And I think that it's the same when we do things nationally. We work down from that, we talk to other unions, and no, NUS have got a bad history of not representing those topics that are discussed and then sharing them down. But what we should be doing after conference is coming back and saying how we voted, why we did, and how we locally can help make a national change. We don't go to a NUS conference and make a change. We go to an NUS conference and decide where we want to make the change. It's when we come back and we do the work that actually is the important part of it. And that's how I intend to make change.
Okay, one final question. Jade? Jade's already had one. Anybody else? Matt's not going to ask his obligatory
Go
question.
on, you can ask it.
So Jade will ask her question.
Ask it, I have an answer.
After the NUS conference last year, a lot of people were cagey as to how they voted. Would you be open about how you voted? And yeah, that's my question.
Is that me, or is that someone else? Okay, it's gone. I think the honest answer to that is open. I think, A, it's televised, and I think you should. At the end of the day, if you are elected by students, you answer to students. I am your current education officer. If I do something wrong, I intend to be held accounted for it. So I should be held account for the way in which I voted when I was elected, if elected, to vote in such a manner. So yes, I would be incredibly honest, because that's what I'm elected to do. Can I leave?
Okay, any online questions? Whoop, whoop. Nope, thank you, Stevie. The final candidate is Eric Sutton, who is a student at Burnley and is unable to be here. So this is the statement he's asked for us to read out. Hi, I'm Eric Sutton and I'm running for Student Council and NUS Delegate. I am a student at Burnley and feel that our students are just as entitled as any other student studying within UCLan to have the full UCLan experience, just as any other student who is studying a UCLan course at partner institutions. They all need advice, support and representation from time to time, and we can give them that. However, some students feel they have little to none of this. After all, it is our job to make life better for students. Without this help, I would not be here myself. I will stand to help all UCLan students wherever they study, that it be in Burnley, Preston or in Hastings. We all have a common goal, and that's to succeed, and with the help and support of the SU, we can help them. Burnley is only 21 miles away, so let's not have an invisible wall between us anymore. And help me by voting for me to break it down. Let's link up students who study and share the same interests. I am a determined, motivated and persistent person in applying myself to every student's issues, to campaigning for the return of the shuttle bus link, to helping students with their main issue of student finance, and I won't stop there. With the upcoming general election, I will push our MPs for students to get a better deal. Vote for me as your number one choice. That's a statement on behalf of Eric Sutton. That concludes the question time for NUS delegates. We only have 2 candidates for Chair of Council, and both of those are not here tonight. I've already had a statement issued in their capacity as NUS delegate. So I would propose that we don't actually have a question time for Chair of Council because those statements are identical. Matt? The 2 candidates that are still standing, indeed, 2 candidates still standing for Chair are Sana Iqbal and Eric Sutton. Okay, so that concludes the question time, but I would first of all like to say thank you to, sorry, I forgot your name. Sof. Thank you to Sof for his excellent work. And hopefully we weren't too fast. I'd also like to say thank you to the tech team and the PSTV team for putting together tonight's event. And for ensuring that, in Eric's words, all those students in Preston and Hastings can actually tune into this online. Voting will open at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. The voting will be through the union's website, uclansu.co.uk, and the vote will finish at 5 p.m. on Thursday afternoon. Good luck to all candidates. I'd like to see you all in here tomorrow morning, bright and early, going out and getting people to vote, because it is really, really important to have their say in the NUS delegate elections in particular, and also the Chair of Council elections. But please also check out all the other elections that are going on. So with that in mind, we would like to announce that there is a Hustings for NUS Women's Conference, which has been organised with the help of FEMSOC and will be in June? In Brook Building on Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock. Brilliant. Okay, so thank you everybody for attending and good luck.